Ken Hughes, though, is going to have to make some decisions with his 4 pending UFAs: David Savard, Yoel Armia, Jake Evans, and Christian Dvorak. As far as value is concerned, and even though I kind of like the fact that he's a homegrown talent, I think Jake Evans is the guy most likely that needs to go in order to maximize the value and not lose him for nothing, because I think he's going to cost too much. And I don't think the Canadiens should be in the business of spending that much money on Jake Evans, because I don't think they're in the position that they need a Jake Evans. Whereas a team ready to level up to round out their depth, they could pay for a Jake Evans. So what about that? What about Jake Evans? Of the 4 pending UFAs, that's the guy Ken Hughes needs to move.
I completely disagree with you. I think Jake Evans should be signed 2 weeks ago to a contract extension. One, because you talked about the value. Every day that he plays with the Canadiens, he is getting noticed around the league, and the value of his contract now versus the value if he goes to free agency. You
Yes.
sign him now, you're going to get him at a price that is not going to be July 1st. So you're not going to have the competition.
How many
I
years?
have no
How
problem.
many years is he going to want? He's going to want 5.
I don't.
5 times 4. You're going to give Jake Evans $20 million. You're going to give him $20 million.
You have to find out. I would, start. You start with 3. He says 5. You probably end up on 4. But you have to be able, because if you start that negotiations 2 weeks ago, you're probably talking about $2.5, $3 million. You start these negotiations after he gets traded to a cup contender, plays a pivotal role for 3 rounds in the playoffs, then hits free agency, and everybody wants a bottom 6 forward that has a playoff face-off percentage of 57. He's going to get that $4 million.
Well, that's why I'm
You
saying
have to.
you have to maximize the value of a Jake Evans. Like I would be with you, bro, if the Canadiens were like maybe Detroit, a team ready to make the jump. Like, Sean, they're 3 years away still from being a team I think that realistically can make the playoffs every season.
Do the Canadiens still have center ice problems?
Yes.
If you take away Jake Evans, you have more center ice problems. The reason why you keep Jake Evans is because you know who he is and what he can do. Now, right now, he's playing an elevated role because Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook can't find their way in the middle of the ice.
Yes.
But Jake Evans, don't be fooled. Jake Evans knows who he is. That's why he's so good at what he does. He knows at most he's a 3rd-line center, and on a championship team, you want him as your 4th-line center. Don't get these grandiose ideas that Jake Evans is going to be getting $4.5, $5 million because he's playing an elevated role with the Canadiens. Jake Evans is a shutdown, face-off guy, penalty killer, and you need those players. And he knows who he is. And you need to keep players that are known commodities. Jake Evans is a known commodity. Every game he goes out on the ice, you know what you're going to get, and he knows what he's going to give you. If you take that away from the Canadiens right now, your center ice is Kirby Dach, unknown commodity down the middle. Alex Newhook, unknown commodity down the middle. Okay, you're going to bring in Owen Beck? Sure, call him up from above. Unknown NHL commodity. You don't know that. And I love Owen Beck. We could talk about Owen Beck all we want. But Jake Evans is something that you know what he is. You keep those players around. And even if you want to maximize your value, that's fine. I know that the Canadiens got a 1st-round pick for Ben Sherratt one day. So you get a 2nd round.
Oh, that's over.
Pick.
That is a cautionary tale forever. It's never going to happen again.
You get a 2nd-round pick. The Canadiens have so many picks anyways.
I know.
What's a 2nd-round pick
versus
something that you've got this 7th-round pick, and he's turned into a quality NHL player that you talk about $4 million. I don't see Jake Evans making those $4 million and $5 million. That's why you needed to do it 3 weeks ago, because if you do it now and the longer you wait, the harder the negotiation becomes.
So talk to me then about the importance of having good veterans on your team and the balancing act. Teams like Montreal need to strike, or do they? I mean, I believe you still need NHL talent. You need people that have been on this ride once or twice before to calm the nerves of guys that are just getting on the ride for the first time. So how tricky of a balancing act, whether it's Yoel Armia, David Savard, talking about Jake Evans, Christian Dvorak, like at this time next year on the 1st of December, 2025, like I mean, you clearly think Jake Evans is going to stay here. So those other three guys, they're not here on December 1st, 2025, right? Like they're going to
So
be the next wave of guys is coming up. This is part of the natural course to rebuild is older players leave, get replaced by the next generation, right? Like that's what's going to happen here. Like because the return on any of those three guys, because I'll give you Jake Evans, I'll give him Armia, Dvorak, David Savard. I mean, no one's pushing the needle here. Like we're not doing an emergency podcast together because of what the Canadians got for Christian Dvorak, Armia, or Savard.
yeah, no, the biggest one might be Savard because of the right-handed defenseman, and when it comes to trade deadline, everybody wants a depth right-handed defenseman.
Right.
Dvorak, it might fall into the Tanner Pearson down the stretch. We tried to trade you, but there was no value out there. Now
Right.
maybe because he's a center iceman that can win draws, that's something that you might be able to get a fifth, fourth round pick. I'm not sure. Armia is a tricky one. Not that he's a leader in the dressing room, but I still see Armia's value on the team. Now you have to equate that to the price tag that you're paying him. So let's just flash back to last year. Ken Hughes, and he mentioned, he goes, the value we were getting back for David Savard trade requests did not equate the value we felt that he brought to the team, not only on the ice, but in the locker room. So they felt the fifth round pick that they were offered was not enough for taking David Savard away from this team because we feel that that would just hurt everybody around. They're going to probably come up and see what's the value of David Savard versus the value of him in the locker room. Stuff that we don't see. So that's a big question on David Savard. I think Dvorak's gone if they can get rid of him, but that's again, I think he might just stick around to the end of his contract if no one's going to take him. And then Armia, it's really probably a prized possession for a playoff team that flashed back to 2021 and saw what he was able to do.
That's it.
But
You
you
just got to
talk,
sell them the highlights. Just got to sell them the second half highlights. Just show them the
yeah,
second half highlights.
Armia's highlights, and there's so much there.
I
He is,
know.
is, he is
I know.
one of the
I
most
know. I know.
confusing, frustrating players in Montreal Canadiens history. But I do see that value if it was lower than what he's getting now. Let's flash back to your first initial question, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, you said, what's
Yeah.
the value of veterans on this team?
Yeah.
Let's take this Montreal Canadiens team right now, and I'm going to add you two veterans on it. Okay, two this year, two veterans. How much better would the Canadiens be this year if they had
Yeah.
Sean Monahan and Jake Allen?
Substantially. Incredibly better. Incredibly better. I mean, Monahan is having a fantastic season production wise. And I'll always remember the look on Nick Suzuki's face. I think he was on a Bar Down podcast or something like that on TSN. And in real time, he was told of the Monahan deal, and you saw the life leave his body, realizing, I'm sure, in a layered way, what that meant for him and his team. And Jake Allen, without question, Caden Primo to me is not ready to play 40 games at the National Hockey League level. At least I don't think he is today. And yeah, it was an enormous loss. I am a big believer in good veterans that are buying into what a young rebuilding team is about. And I think David Savard is exceptionally valued to this rebuild. I believe him when he says he wants to be a part of it. And I I don't think Yoel Armia is a part of this, and that I do think that in terms of selling him to a team that needs a timely goal in the second, third round, or a big game 6 of the first round, I think there are many teams, Campbell, that will take a flyer and a gamble on Yoel Armia for I just need one, Joel. I just need one, and it has to be at the right time. It makes the deal all worth it.
Yeah, he'd be the kind of guy that would score in triple overtime.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Sean
how I
Campbell,
trade him. That's how I trade him. Like Ken
I
Hughes be
agree.
like,
I
you
agree.
think about it. Look at him. He scored
Yeah.
that goal in the fourth overtime, and
Yeah,
someone's be
man.
like,
Sold. That's one half of Campbell v. Gallo. It's Sean Campbell, the voice of the Rocket and the Montreal Alouettes. Sean, thanks so much for doing this.
So much fun, man. You got to get back in the car, though. You gotta get back in the car.
I'm going to
How
eventually.
about that? In the cart with start. You get in the golf cart.
There's so much possibilities for this ridiculous family name I have. Thanks, brother. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, have a good one, bud.